I seen a lot of things in his game that, like, I see his influence everywhere, even today. The way he dribbled,
Right.
the way he went around the back, the way he did
Hmm.
things. Granted, it was a different time, but I could see players like even like Isaiah Thomas. Like, I kind
Hmm.
of look at that. But I was gonna ask you, is there any players that he reminds you of?
So he reminds me, I think he has the spirit of an Allen Iverson.
Yeah,
And that's who I've always been closest to. Again, I wasn't born during the period of his Bourbon Day and Cal State LA days, right?
yeah,
So the documentary was something that I actually got to see for the first time, my father on film, at 19 being interviewed by Brian Gumbel, and some of the moves that people told us about, right? I got to see him play as an adult in
yeah,
the
yeah.
Drew League and in the summer leagues, right? Um, and
Right.
so his spirit and his game as well, if I had to compare it to somebody, it would be Allen Iverson.
What about as a shooter? Anybody shoot like his form? Anybody
Um,
put it up there like that?
Well, seeing that I've never seen my father miss a basket ever, I probably would say Steph Curry if I had to compare his shooting to someone. Um,
Uh,
I don't think he can be compared to anybody myself personally, but if I had to, it would be Steph Curry.
Growing up, I was mad at Raymond because I felt like we didn't have to live, we could have been living better. I didn't understand the stance that he took. I didn't understand any of that. I was young. So I was mad until I got to an age and I can understand the stance that he took was epic. And he's the reason that a lot of people get paid what they get paid now.
how has the documentary and everything affected your life after? When the
It's been affected, of course, right? So, um, during the documentary, I had to do a lot of healing as well, right? So we're talking about my dad. I have to see people talking about my father at 19, a decision he made at 19, something that I also judged him on, right? Now I'm a almost 50-year-old woman and I have different lenses. You know, we grow up and we mature. So it's been very therapeutic and healing for me as well. My people have been asking me about my father my entire life, right? Especially the LA community. I think because
yeah,
I've been
yeah, yeah.
raised up here in the Bay Area, Oakland, Berkeley area, more people were like, "Oh, like your dad is really a big deal,
Yeah,
right?" Um, and then
yeah.
people have been trying to buy the story from his rights from me since the day he passed away. Somebody actually gave me a contract on the steps of the funeral, wanted to buy his
Oh
rights from me.
wow.
So um, I'm not. Um, I'm not. I'm used to people
Yeah.
knowing who he is.
Okay, okay.
Um, but the documentary, like I said, it's been therapeutic. It's been healing. Um, and I think that's the most important thing for me, right? And I get to share it with my son who's 33, named after my dad, my daughter who's 21, who's
Yeah.
also named after my dad, and now my granddaughter, one of my granddaughters, was born on Raymond's birthday, and my other granddaughter. I get to share this story with them, and so
Oh,
that's amazing, you know.
I don't feel there's ever anybody as good as him.
Hey, Dad. Still keeping your legacy alive. Shooting paradise, baby.
talked about the life, the legacy, how it affects you and everything else around it. I was gonna
Hmm.
ask, what is next for the Raymond Lewis story?
Definitely a book. One of the stories that I remember vividly is my father telling me, Mimi, which is just what he called me, pay attention when he would talk to important people or be on the phone with people. Pay attention because one day you're going to have to write my book, right? So there was no documentaries like this. There was no social media back then, and I just thought this man is absolutely crazy, but it was the truth. So, his book to outline more of his life and how he became to be such an amazing basketball player, and how he affected all these little boys in Watts, all the young men in Watts.
Yeah,
After Raymond Lewis, everybody wanted to ball in LA, and that's just the truth.
yeah,
Um, so I think that should be highlighted, and hopefully a movie of some sort again to include his entire life because it wasn't just basketball. It was everything surrounded that and how him
yeah.
not being able to play ultimately led to his demise. I would like personally, as his daughter, the NBA to recognize Raymond and what they did to him. So we, of course, and there's been some basketball camps and some AAU leagues in honor of Raymond, but definitely something more on the map and something we can give back to the Watts community, that can highlight the drug epidemic, the addiction, the mental health piece, and basketball, of course. Yes.
I believe that the players today owe a debt of gratitude to Raymond Lewis because he was one of the first to try the system. I believe if they knew the Raymond Lewis story, then they certainly would have a great appreciation for what he sacrificed.
We'll be looking forward to anything in the future. Is there anything you'd like to say before we wrap up the podcast?
Well, I mean, I think we've covered a lot of it. Of course, my first question, and when I see people now, are, did you watch the Raymond Lewis documentary? I just think every sports person, every sports um, fan around the world, not just the U.S., should see this documentary. So I'm hoping that everyone watches it. If you haven't watched it, make sure you watch it, and what lessons you can learn from it. I'm happy that I'm able to represent for my father, and I think that he would be proud, and I know he's proud. So
thank you for your time again. I appreciate you sitting down with us.
Of course, anytime. Thank you.
All right. Thank you.